The Brothers Karamazov, Book 8, Chapter 1. Book 8 goes back in time to go over the same time that has elapsed in book number 7, but this is kind of like when you're watching a TV show or movie in the 80s, and then on the bottom of the screen it said, meanwhile, ... And now we know what Dmitri was doing when Alyosha was losing, but not really losing his faith and then regaining his faith. While that's taking place, we see here in chapter 1, really the first 3 chapters of book 8, exactly what was going on at that point. And it seems like Dmitri is close to going mad. He is beside himself with anxiety and fear, and he's thinking every second that this is the moment that Grushenka will choose who she's going to be with. And he's thinking constantly about her, and Dmitri is thinking that while he's so divided over what she'll choose, and while he's expecting her to choose at any second, he also knows that she doesn't know for sure, and so there are alternating moments, he thinks, inside Grushenka where she is either for him or for his father. And that makes me think of an important point too, that not only does Dmitri believe that Grushenka is undecided, he also believes that she can only really possibly be undecided between he and Fyodor, he and his father. He has completely dismissed the possibility that he could be in competition with a third man, this officer who she was with 5 years ago. Why? Because even though he's seen a letter from him, he can't fathom that she would still have any romantic interest with someone who treated her poorly 5 years ago and she hasn't seen since. And then on top of that, his letters aren't even completely committal, at least the parts that she's read to Dmitri. Aren't completely committal to even coming for sure anyway. So Dmitri has interpreted for those 2 reasons that she hasn't seen him in 5 years and that his letters aren't ooey gooey and I'm coming to get you for sure. And then on top of that, Dmitri feels certain that the only reason he's even aware of the letters is Grushenka is kind of using them just to make him feel bad, just to kind of play hard to get. And so Dmitri has completely dismissed the possibility that Grushenka could choose a third man. Instead, he is completely obsessed with whether or not that she has chosen his father or him, and if she has done that immediately, and this is driving him mad thinking about it. Now, this isn't the only thing driving him mad. The other thing that's driving him mad is what he will do in the future when she makes her choice. Now, with simple people and with confused people, people who are prowling around with lust and anxiety, they're also not able to logically and coolly, in a calculating or wise way, like Ivan might think in a calculating way, Alyosha might think in a wise way, but Dmitri is not able to do that, and so he really has not even considered, he's completely put out of his mind the possibility that she doesn't choose him. However, the other side isn't as rosy as it sounds either. The other thing she could do is she could choose him. But then he's darned as well. So darned if she doesn't, but darned if she does. How so? Because he doesn't want to begin a relationship like that. Sure, Grushenka, is good with money, but Dmitri's not. Dmitri has no money. But you know what? It's worse than that. It's not that Dmitri has no money. It's that it's worse than he has no money. He has no money, and he owes Katerina 3,000 rubles. And it's even worse than that. He owes Katerina 3,000 rubles because of stealing it. And so here we're getting a little bit of insight. Even though Book 8 is all about action and externals, we still get some internals and worldview type of stuff. And Dmitri has a code of honor. It might be a unique code of honor, but he does have a endearing morality, an endearing code. He doesn't just want, or in his mind, need Grushenka. He wants Grushenka to choose him, but he wants to have done the right thing. He wants the clean hands and a pure heart with Katerina. In other words, he must pay her back. And the narrator drops in a very, very important detail going forward, which is this. It's that Dmitri has decided that he's going to block out of his mind what will happen if she doesn't choose him. But if she does choose him, he will either pay Katerina back, or he would go to the extent of killing someone in order to pay Katerina back. So that's why I said it's a curious code of honor that you need to pay someone back so much you don't want to be a sponge or a thief, but that you would be a murderer in order to not be a sponge or a thief. So it's perhaps twisted morality, but there's still some morality to it. There's still a code of honor there. And so he can think of only one idea, only one person who has the means and in Dmitri's screwed up mind, not only the means, but the motivation to help him, and that's old Samsonov, a sponsor of Grushenka. And as much as I can ascertain about Russian culture almost 2 whole centuries ago, a century and a half ago at least, there was some pseudo-romantic relationship between this puffy old man, Samsonov, and Grushenka. He was a father figure to her, but also a romantic father figure to her. And so Dmitri is just going to assume that Samsonov took advantage of Grushenka. They both know it. Both Samsonov and Dmitri knew that he used his financial position to take advantage of Grushenka when she was a teen, and that he would feel remorse about that, and that he is no longer, because he's such an old man close to dying, that he no longer would have any feelings or romantic intent toward Grushenka, and that seeing the obvious moral superiority of Dmitri to Fyodor, that he would choose Dmitri in that choice, and that he would help out Dmitri to get Grushenka, because he would care enough about Grushenka as a daughter that she would end up with the right man. So all this makes sense in Dmitri's mind. The narrator is not very sympathetic at all to Dmitri's mind, but that's what computes in the calculator of Dmitri's mind. And so he goes to Samsonov's house, and Samsonov is this old, gruff, serious fellow, and he doesn't want to see Dmitri, but Dmitri is prepared. He's got a big pen and a steno pad, and he scribbles down on the note and says, "This is important. It's about Grushenka. I'm here on an urgent and important business." And then he's allowed to see Samsonov, who we get a long description of his household and who lives downstairs and what his household looks like. And we see in that portrait, Dostoevsky is saying that this is a household that still upholds Russian tradition. It's not a Euro trash household. Instead, it's a traditional Russian household. And so that's important in this description to Dostoevsky. Finally, Dmitri is in the room with Samsonov after Samsonov figures out that Dmitri is not going away and he's not violent. He's got his son there in case he needs a witness. If he has to beat Dmitri down at some point, the son needs to be there as a witness. And Dmitri starts. And Dmitri tells one of these long, convoluted stories that's missing parts. The logic isn't there, and Dmitri knows it. As he's trying to explain himself, he says, and we've all had this experience a million times, where something makes sense inside your own head, but then you're asked to write a paper, or then you're asked to give a speech, or you try to retell the story to someone else, and you realize that what made sense inside your head, you're not able to articulate, you're not able to get out, usually because it really didn't make sense. You just filled in some gaps psychologically. And so as Dmitri is trying to recount all of these things, to Samsonov. Samsonov listens to the whole convoluted, terrible, and our narrator even calls it stupid story, stupid idea, and says, we don't do that. We don't buy up people's debts and pay them today. We don't give cash advances. We don't pay cash settlements out and then go collect your debts around town. That's not what we do here. No. It's a simple no. Go away. And Dmitri is crushed. And Samsonov can't do with just having the upper hand. Instead, Samsonov needs to make it worse. So then he hatches an idea for Dmitri, and the idea is this. Look, there's someone who is trying to buy some of your father's lands. Go ask him for it, because that's your inheritance, so it's right for you. You go make the deal for your father's lands. And so what is Samsonov doing? He's sending Dmitri 7 miles away from town, 8 miles away from town, to go track down this man who is supposedly interested in buying one of Fyodor's forests, the very section of forest that should be part of Dmitri's inheritance. And so Samsonov is not just cold and calculating, he's also a little bit cruel. He can't resist seeing Dmitri. So what is the point of this chapter? How does this move the action forward? Well, I think that we see sort of the good and the bad of Dmitri all mixed into one in this chapter. He has a conscience. He is absolutely convinced that even best case scenario, even if he gets Grushenka, he has to be new. He has to be redeemed. He has to be regenerated. He has to be rebaptized. And he thinks that Grushenka will be a completely new woman and he will be a completely new man if they could just be together. And if they could just move to a new place, they could escape the old man. They could escape the old Adam. That they could escape their sin nature, that everything would be new Jerusalem, new creation, if they could just be together and get away. And so there is something endearing about that. There is something likable, because he's not happy with who he is. He's not happy being an anxious, conflicted, Epicurean kind of guy like his dad is. His dad is a drunk. His dad is an adulterous, mean, sarcastic, lying man. But Dmitri is not. Dmitri is a sinner, but he hates his sin, and so he wants to get away with Grushenka and become a new person. He longs for redemption, but he knows he can never have that with a 3,000 ruble debt to Katerina that he stole. He knows he can never be new as long as he has that. And so we see that he has a conscience and a moral code, and yet we also see, on the other hand, that he is a simpleton. He was being made fun of by Samsonov. It should have been obvious at the time. He is being made sport of. But he's really quite simple. He can't read the room. He can't read the temperature. He can't see what's right in front of his face. So on the one hand, we have a moral man who is conflicted in nature and wants to be better. He wants to be redeemed. But on the other hand, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to money, he can't read Grushenka's intentions. He doesn't know how to handle money, and he can't read his whole life situation. Right there in the room with Samsonov, he should have known that he was being played, but he can't figure that out. God help him. So going forward in Book 8, we're just going to see more of the same. Really good intentions on Dmitri's part and really poor execution.